Hey, y'all, and welcome to another edition of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance. The NFA's purpose is to honor, improve, and advance the sport of tackle football. If you're the parent, coach, or administrator of a youth or high school player, you're in the right place. We aim to deliver an authentic voice regarding performance, safety, and the medical truth to support you and your players. My name is John Reagan. With me is Joe Rafter. Let's kick it off. Welcome back to this edition of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance. We are very lucky today to have a college coach join us, Coach Bill Best from Colorado State University. And I am excited to be here with Joe Rafter. And Joe, I'll let you take it and introduce us to Bill and get us moving.
Coach, it's early on a Sunday morning. This is the earliest, Coach Best, this is the earliest we've ever recorded a session. As we were talking about earlier, really appreciate you making the time. I know life's busy and you're about to head off into some interesting things, but welcome to the Unscripted Huddle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Not too early. You guys are. It's not too early on the East Coast where you guys are at.
Exactly.
That's
true.
Exactly.
We're feeling
Yeah,
for you on Mountain Time there, Coach.
So, really, really excited to have Coach Bill Best with us here today. Coach, first down, easy, kind of question. We like our audience to be able to get to know our guests a little bit. So tell us a little bit about kind of your story and your history with football and what led you into, the role that you're in today with Colorado State.
Oh man, that's a great question. I guess football. First way I should say, I grew up in Rayville, Louisiana, a small town, about 4,500 people in northeast Louisiana, and I remember watching a Super Bowl when I was a kid. I was probably 6 or 7, and I was like, what is this? And kind of rough and tumble neighborhood I lived in. Everybody goes out and plays, and kind of got into football at a really early age, and then as a 7-year-old, my dad passed away, so. What ended up happening, I was kind of poor growing up. I had everything we needed, but not a whole lot else. But Mom worked 3 jobs, and my grandparents really helped me. But really, the people that developed me the most were my high school football coaches. And one in particular, Tim Shremick, who's still a great friend of mine, and not a friend, but a mentor. He just retired in Mississippi a few years ago and was a high school coach. But he was a really good offensive line coach, and I was a big kid and just gravitated towards that, and had him in class a couple times as a youngster in high school, and I wanted to be just like him. So I knew as a freshman in high school what I wanted to do. Now my grandparents, my grandma thought I was going to be a doctor or something like that, but they didn't know I didn't like blood or anything like that. Or I knew, if you look at some of my high school notebooks, there's football plays drawn up and offensive line, lineups drawn up in there, and NFL players drawn up in there. And I just really knew what I wanted to do as a kid, and never really looked back from that. But I went to college at Millsaps College as a freshman, only because football was able to get in there. It was pretty smart school, but I went there. Really wasn't for me, but I got in, and I played a little bit as a true freshman, and I ended up coming back, transferring home after a semester, after a season, to Louisiana Monroe, and played there for a little bit, and then I really just got into coaching. Wasn't a great player, but got into coaching, and just really, really had a passion for offensive line. I've never really wanted to be I've never wanted to aspire to be a head coach. I've called plays before. I really don't like that. I just like coaching offensive line, and that's kind of my passion for that, and learning and going across the country and running up credit card bills when I was a Division II junior college coach, not making much money. I guess the word spread a little bit, in the coaching circles, and this guy will do whatever it takes, and eventually got me to the right people, and here I am. Long story short.
That's awesome, Coach. Now you're the offensive line coach and run game coordinator at Colorado State, correct?
That's right. Yep.
So I have a follow-on question. As a run game coordinator, what additional duties? How do you approach that role?
Well, really, I'm not a comedian, but I get blamed more if it doesn't work now. It's really
That's the
doing the
best part
same
of
thing.
titles, Coach. That's the best part of titles.
Yeah, really doing the same thing I've always done. And
Right.
Coach Norvell, Jay Norvell's our head coach, and I tell you, he's awesome to work. And I say work with, not work for. He is unbelievable. He really puts a lot of faith in me and trust in me. And this will be my sixth season with him between Colorado State and Nevada.
Oh wow.
And you know, there was I guess we went through COVID together, and I guess if you're really thinking about it now, really building that trust with each other as a coaching staff or a head coach or line coach, I think our trust was really, you know, it really was fast because we had to go through COVID and all those things, and he had so much to do, so much to deal with like everyone else, and I just did my job the best I could. I think he saw that and put a lot of trust in me. Every year since has just grown, and I've always done the run game. I mean, you're no line coach, that's what you do, whether you have the title or not. And actually, I didn't need the title. I like the paycheck a little better, but I really didn't need the title, and he knew that. But he felt like this was the time to give it to me. After this past season, we were pretty good running the football, and our offensive line was pretty good last year. We're going to do it again now, but our responsibilities is just. I mean, you coordinate the run. I mean, you figure out what fronts, what defenses, what nuances you got to do. Really, I think the biggest thing for me is learning the motion game and how coverages fit. Force patterns on defense. Learning that part of it a little better. Not learning it, but really focusing more on that and tying play
Right.
action into it more. That's been the biggest thing the last couple months. This off season.
Awesome. John.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's fun to hear that. I remember those days when you doing those game planning and trying to learn a little bit more and trying to figure out how to learn a little bit more. And I think that from your career, you've put pressure on yourself to get better. That's who you are, and so now that gets recognized, and all it does is just create higher expectations, which is not always bad, but just creates new expectations for you. So I'm gonna move us into second down, Joe, if you're all right with that.
Right
So
on. Yeah, let's go.
over the following you just a little bit, Coach, I think that there have been some pretty good influences in your life with OLine coaches, with guys like Scott Peters, Callahan, those guys, and but in your own way, you've kind of brought some innovative methods to, I'm going to say, teaching, not just coaching on the field, but teaching your offensive line. Maybe for our listeners, you'll share some of those and a little bit how they've developed, and then how you implement them. And I know there's a lot to that, so take it. We'll keep running with this as long as we need to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I mentioned earlier, I wasn't a great player. So when I looked at, coaches in this profession who made it, like, how did they make it? Like, you're either a great player that had huge connections, or you kind of, you're in the family business, or you're an innovator. And, I wasn't going to, I couldn't change my family. I couldn't change how great of a player. I'd go back in a time machine and change how great of a player I was. So innovation was really the way I had to go. And, and it's not always technology. It's the way you teach, like you mentioned before. And guys like, and I didn't know him personally, but like Coach Howard Mudd. And it's really ironic now that he's retired. I just left Canton, Ohio this past week. Took my boys with me to see Coach McNally, get inducted in the Hall of Fame, the Award of Excellence. And he and I talk every day. He'll probably call me, FaceTime me during this podcast. So I've got my notifications up. We talk football every day, and guys like that, I'd go to the Cool Clinic and learn from him, and I realized, like, I've got some of these same thought patterns. Like, why do we have to lead step? Why do we have to do this? Who says we have to do it? Like, I don't really quite understand this. My brain doesn't work that way. So you find other ways to do things, and with a guy like Jim McNally getting up in front of all those people and being brave enough to say it and coach it, it made me realize that, I can do that too. So that kind of became my niche, and just doing things a little bit differently, and then you got to make it your own, and you got to get it to the players, and they got to make it work for you. And I've had some really good players make it work for me over the years, but I continue to try to learn and do things better, build a better boat. That's what we're all trying to do, and fortunately, I've got a little bit of autonomy to teach techniques and things with Coach Norvell. He doesn't get in our way. He lets us go, and as long as it works, it works. And I think probably the two biggest things that we do, you mentioned Scott Peters. I was with Scott this past week, and Mike Pollock out for Tip of the Spear.
Right.
A couple of years ago, our first season at Colorado State, we were not very good. We came from Nevada where we had some success, and we were dead last in the country for a lot of reasons, not just the O-line, but for a big part of it was the O-line, and sacks allowed. I mean, it was I don't even want to say the number. I've forgotten the number actually, but it was bad. And I went in my basement. It's cold in the winter here, so I went in my basement over the break and Christmas, and I was like, I got to change something. And I got in the Tip of the Spear. I'd kind of seen Scott before and met him a few times, and I was like, well, I can't get a hold of Scott himself. I know he's working right now for the Browns, but I can get a hold of Mike Pollock. So I reached out to Mike, and Mike's his number 2 and teaches. So Mike and I hit it off really well. We met in Arizona, and I went, head first into this Tip of the Spear, the strike system, and learned it. Our players learned it, and we went from last in the country, I mean dead last by a large margin, to third in the country in sacks allowed the next year. And we've made it our own, and we've innovated it even further for us, and that's been a huge part of it. And then I'd say the second thing we've done is when I was at Rice coaching, anything you want to do that's with technology and a grant and innovation, you can do it at Rice because it's it's one of those schools. But I was able to get in touch with a guy named Dutch Friends, and he's a former Green Beret Special Forces operator. Like this guy's like high up, like security clearance guy, and he also has a doctorate in psychology from Stanford. So he invented this device that uses an Oculus headset, this virtual reality, but he has a voice recognition pattern in it. So he's all about Special Forces training with the VR, and he was like, "Hey, can you help me develop, how to use this with the offensive line?" So I left to go to Nevada, and I was like, "Well, we don't have any money." He goes, "Well, I'll let you have a free account if you'll just kind of help me develop it." So I did, and we take a camera and we put it on. I figured out a way to put it on the O-lineman's helmet and record everything in 360 audio, like you can hear, and you can put it on and look around, and it's like you're at practice. So my challenge was, how do I use this for offensive line? And well, we can use it for blitz pickup. We can use it for run fits. We can use it for technique, because what it does is if you've got a kid playing right tackle and then he's your best guy and somebody gets hurt, well, he may have to go to left tackle. Well, I can't afford practice time to get him enough reps over there for that situation. But if I record it, I've got it. Now he can put that headset on. He can go practice.
Go take those reps,
and take the beating off his body. But the voice recognition piece to it is really the magic, because anytime there's a decision to be made, whether it's, hey, a bull rush is coming at me, or a long arm, or a rip, or whatever, I can pause that film that we've got recorded, mark it up, and whatever brevity code answer I need for him, when he sees that point in the film, he can say the word out loud, whatever his response needs to be, decision, and it will record it, and it will mark it, and it'll measure how fast he made that decision, and I get a printout of it. And those guys go through blitz pickup, they go through all those decisions, and I can tell who's making decisions fast, and it trains their brain fast to go. And that's really made a big deal for us, big difference for us over the years.
I'll say this, Joe, for our listeners, way back at the beginning there, Bill mentioned the Cool Clinic, and for those that don't know what that is it's an O-line clinic that was started, I don't know, 30 years ago, maybe even longer, by Coach McNally, and it was presented by the Mushroom Society, because O-line coaches are a bunch of guys that sit in the dark and watch video and try to grow. Literally that is why it was called that, and it's a phenomenal clinic. I think it kind of went the way in person of COVID, but I know that it's still out there. Coach McNally still presents tapes every year and gets speakers out there, so it's a pretty neat deal. You can tell that Coach Best is a lifelong learner and still learning here as we go through things.
Coach, yeah. I love the the innovation and the focus on the decision making.
Yeah.
Right, like how fast if you're coaching it, you're obviously, you're clearly coaching at a really high level, but to coach not just technique, right, and run fits and scheme. But now you're coaching guys and the speed at which they decide on how they're going to counter a defensive lineman. It's I can't wait to watch Colorado State this fall.
No
Coach.
doubt. You know what? And for me, like I'm sitting here and having, doing it for 28 years, and I'm going, man, I always thought that the VR stuff would be really cool to help a young right guard become a not so young right guard. But that thought process of making your backup right tackle your next left guard, or your left guard your next starting center, and you talk about the audio, holy cow, listen to those guys making calls and putting all that in. I mean, holy cow, I think that is it just never thought about it. I mean, 30 years and awesome.
When you're marking up the film and you're reviewing the film that you've got with the audio, it gets interesting because the guys know they have the cameras on. You hear some funny things.
Oh, I bet you do. Arguments and calls and all kinds of stuff going on there.
Well, the arguments and calls, but then they, whenever you're mic'd up, you think you got a platform. So they
a little
say
comedy.
Crazy things, but going back to what you just mentioned about the right tackle playing right guard, what I've also found in this portal age of football, we've been really fortunate, and I got to knock on some wood here. Any high school kid that we've signed the last 2 going on 3 years, we've still got them. They're still on our roster on offensive line. We haven't lost a guy to the portal.
Congratulations, Coach. That's awesome.
It's like when you graduated college. Remember how great you felt, and I don't have to work. I don't take more tests. It feels like that, but 10 times better to not be looking for an alignment in the portal this time of year. Now, hopefully we can continue that, but I think guys feel like they're getting developed, and our VR is a big part of that. But to bring a freshman in, like we just had freshmen, that are 18 years old come on campus a couple weeks ago. They've got these headsets, and there's a physical part of playing offensive line, as you guys know, that takes the longest part to develop. There's a strength and a speed, and then there's a mental. Well, guys can handle their strength and speed. Either you are or you aren't. You can continue getting better. You can handle that. You can handle the mental up to a certain point if you're just a kid coming in. You can learn the playbook, a static playbook. Those two things right there, a kid can control those up to a certain point. They can't control the experience.
Right.
But to be able to speed up the process of the mental, to put that headset on them, this is how fast it is. I think that's shrinking that gap even more, so a kid's even more ready to play. So the point is, if we do get to a point where we're losing linemen, a freshman, we're signing them to play. We're not signing them to redshirt. We hope they can redshirt, but they may have to play. So it's our job to get them ready to play, and that's one tool we use, Reps VR, to shrink that gap.
Joe, I'm going to jump in here and kind of I'm going way off the unscripted script. Coach, you had a phenomenal player this past year graduate, right? I mean, your senior captain, 3-time captain, I think. Unheard of.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
57, 58 games started, center, played for you 2 different places. For the players that are listening, there's lots of things, but in a 15-minute time frame, let's put that limit on it. Take as long as you want. What made him unique? And then how did he, because obviously somebody that good is very talented, but to continue to get better, he's got to be coached well. What made y'all fit? What was that? What allowed that to happen?
Just you're referring to Jacob Gardner, our center.
Yeah.
So when I got to Nevada, it was right before COVID, and my first job was to get on a plane and go to out and see all these kids the previous OLine coach had signed, and I didn't sign him, but I went to Rancho Cucamonga, Los Olas High School, and 3 others that I had to go see. But I went and saw Jacob, and I remember meeting him in the coach's office there. I just remember he was the last guy I saw, and the other guys, they were good players, but there was just something different about Jacob. Like, this guy's 17 years old. He's got a huge hands and a firm handshake. Look in the eyes, quiet. You can tell he's listening with intent, not listening to respond, but listening with intent. And I thought, man, he didn't say much, but just had a different demeanor about him. And as I learned more about him, as I got back, I'm like, that was really interesting to meet him. Like, this guy might, he might be something. This film was pretty good too. And as I did more research, like his 2 uncles are in the WWE Hall of Fame, the Briscoe brothers, tag team wrestlers.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I'm like, okay, this guy, so he gets to campus, and purpose. So, he's 6'3", 6'4" at the time, about 290, and we needed a center. So I started him at center to begin with, and he was doing pretty good. Like he was climbing, he was pushing like as a 17-year-old. And about, I don't know, 2 weeks into camp, the guy I brought in to play left tackle had an MCL. So I was like, man, I've seen enough. You're going to go left tackle. Like you're going to go compete for this job, push this older guy. The older guy quit. And so Jacob, 17 years old in COVID, and I'll never forget, we played Wyoming. My first game at Nevada is I don't know, late September, October. We got a 17-year-old guy playing left tackle, and he is dominating.
Wow.
I mean, he is dominating. He made all conference 5 times.
Right.
But he played left tackle for us, did really, really well. And then I always know wanted to move him back to center. We just didn't have the ability to do that in Nevada. We had a pretty good center there. But I remember getting on an airplane to recruit in Denver from Reno, and my phone was dead, and Coach Norvell took this job just kind of, not out of the blue, but I didn't know about it. I just was working. The guy on the plane next to me told me showed me an ESPN article on his phone that Coach Norvell took the job at Nevada gear on. I was like, oh my gosh. So I get to the airport in Denver, plug in my phone. There's 19 missed phone calls. And, one of them's from Jacob Gardner. 18 of them are from Coach Norvell. Where you at? And
Right.
Jacob left me a voicemail. They just had a team meeting. He's like, I'm already in the portal. I'm coming. And so we moved him back to center. And, we were, as I mentioned, we were really bad at Colorado State in 22 when we first got here. So Jacob started the first 2 games against Michigan, did really well. Started the second game against Middle Tennessee, both losses, and we had guys quitting left and right. Like it was unbelievable. So Jacob, you got to go back to left tackle, and he didn't come here to do that. And there was some anxiety, but there wasn't a personal deal with him. Like I'm not going to do this because it's not what I came here for. It was just anxiety, like we're throwing the ball every down here. Like I'm not built to be a left tackle. But he did it and played really well. Made all conference again. Then we were able to move him to center, and so I guess just the thing as I'm building this up about Jacob was just, first of all, extremely loyal. Like when you talk about loyalty, I mean I've never had a player more loyal than that. I mean to do the things he did for us, to follow me, to trust me with all this stuff we're doing that's new and maybe not in vogue. That would be number one, like complete trust in me, and I had complete trust in him. Number two, like you talk about a guy that punched the clock every day, like I mean every day. I never worried about him in practice. Like I don't ever remember him missing a practice I'm sure he did at some point, but just an everyday guy and quiet leader. I can remember being in his junior year. I can remember him sitting back in the meeting room, and everybody's falling out of the meeting to go to practice, and he just quietly asked a couple of freshmen, "Hey, let me see your notebook." And he didn't do it to let me know that he was checking. I could just happen to catch it. Let me check your notebook, really quietly, and he's checking through their notes. You got to take better notes. This ain't getting it, man. I'm watching you, and your head's dozing off, and that's not what it's about, man. You gotta pick it up. You gotta take better notes. Because you're making the same mistakes over and over again, and coaches spending way too much time correcting you and not coaching the rest of us. So I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. So
Yeah.
toughness, loyalty, and just an everyday guy. That's what made him special.
Awesome, Coach. What I love about what you just said is, you're describing. Most people would expect someone. I think the average person is going to expect the answer to your question to be he was strong, he was fast, he was tough.
He was all those things too. Yeah.
Right. But what you're describing though is, and it mirrors kind of what we're about at the National Football Alliance, right? It's about the character of the player. How you do what you do is important, right? And this guy, I don't know Jacob, but he sounds like a high character, high quality individual who's, like you said, loyal. I mean, loyalty these days in players is too rare. I feel, right, with the portal and all that kind of stuff. And so, thrilled. I'm gonna look the kid up. What's he up to now?
Well, it's crazy. He's not in the NFL. We thought he would be. He got a chance with the Colts, didn't get picked up. So he's still training, working out. Hopefully something works out for him, UFL or free agency. The guy's got 59 starts. So, but
Yeah.
he's got a I don't know if he's going to watch this, but he's probably going to get married soon. I'm sure. I hope he does. He should. And wants to be a firefighter. So nothing wrong with that either. If the NFL
Nothing wrong with that.
Continue
man.
to be
Nothing
loyal
wrong
and serve. It sounds like.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally. So John, should we shift to third down? Coach, I want to go back to you mentioned earlier about tip of the spear. I'm a believer, and we have a partnership with them. But in your words, what makes tip of the spear unique, special, compelling that you're teaching and you're working with that kind of content at Colorado State?
I can tell you right now that there's so much stuff presented to me. When you're a college coach, you have the avenues to explore different things and a lot of opportunities. You can buy stuff and products or coach or whatever to help you out. And when I got on the phone with Mike Pollock a couple years ago, he was willing. I mean, this guy played 7, maybe 9 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
And number one, he's got 2 kids. His son's playing baseball. He talked about his kids. I talk about my kids all the time. I could tell he was a genuine dude. And this guy, when you not to get into Mike's business, but when you play that long in the NFL, you're not looking for money. And he was so passionate about what I was looking for with the strike system and the tip of the spear. And again, I had been exposed to it, but I kind of had a high school diploma in it, and I was looking for my doctorate. And he was able to provide that. And there was never a time where he denied my phone call or a text or any of that, or tried to sell me anything. He even asked me to buy it. I did. I still buy it every year. I don't even know if he knows that, but I pay for it every year because we've gotten a lot from it. But just a passion that matched mine about making the game better. Period. Not looking for money. So many people are just looking for a quick buck.
Yeah.
And not Mike, not Scott. These guys were really genuinely trying to change the game, make it safer, make it better, and they. One of the most undercoached things in football is the hand placement of offensive linemen. Everybody starts with feet, and everybody coaches steps, and this, that, and the other. No one coaches hands. They may touch on it, but it's not specific. And what intrigued me was these guys are coaching like specifics, like not just one thing or 2 things. I mean, a whole library of things, and that really resonated with me, and I wanted to know more. So I think just the detail, the passion, and knowing that they're doing it for the right reasons, not to make money.
Yeah. So I had a chance to meet and spend a lot of time with Scott Peters before he got into the NFL, and like hours through COVID on video calls, talking, and I think what they've done is, frankly, it's genius. I think it's elegant, it's so sophisticated, yet it's so simple, and it translates to all levels of play.
Yeah.
Like I've implemented it at the youth and high school level. You're implementing it at a college level. He's implementing it and now in multiple teams in the NFL level, and it's been around for a long time. But it's that whole story of how they basically took, mixed martial arts and combined it with offensive line play is just, and if you ever get a chance to talk to Scott, like when he tells stories of the early days when he was bringing offensive linemen in to train them down in Phoenix. And he'd bring in like 180-pound MMA dude and 6'8", 320-pound NFL lineman, and the MMA dude starts moving the lineman around the room, and they're like, I can't handle this because it's almost an unfair advantage, almost.
It really is, and you combine that with and Coach McNally had a lot to do with Scott getting in the NFL, and I was around those guys this past week for a couple of days, and like I mentioned, I took my 2 boys with me. Well, I got a 14-year-old who hasn't hit his growth spurt yet, and an 8-year-old, and they're nonstop, like 2 boys should be, in sports. And Scott met him and we talked and they both played 3 or 4 sports each and Scott's like, man, you want to get him in the jiu-jitsu. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, you could just tell the passion about that part.
Yeah.
Like you learn how the body works, mechanics work. Like it'd be the best thing for him, you know. He was serious, and my kids were looking at him. And then the little guy, he was like, yeah, you'd have an unfair advantage over your big brother. You could probably beat him up. Now he wants to
Now the little guy, right? The little guy's going to go before the older guy.
Coach, I'm telling you, I'm thinking that if I'd done that with my son, he'd have an unfair advantage over me. I'm not sure I'd be ready for that. I don't know if I could.
I talk enough trash to him. I probably shouldn't do that. I might get the worst of it.
Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it, right?
That's right.
Well, I'm going to kind of take us into fourth down. Coach, so many changes, and you've lived them and witnessed them, and major changes in college football with, and most of them in the last 5 to 6 years. Obviously, the House settlement being the most recent, but not all of them always directly affect player and coach. But I think now, with the change in revenue share, with the change in how conferences are aligning, there got to be some things that really are affecting both the player, the coach, that relationship, and therefore teams, whether it's in the recruiting side or if it's just within the locker room. Just maybe touch on some of those that you've seen or that you've witnessed or that you feel on a daily basis.
Yeah, I got to give credit to our administration here. I mean, we are. I feel like maybe we're not, but I certainly feel like it that I'm insulated as an OLine coach. Our administration and Coach Norvell have been innovative and ahead of this thing for a while. They knew what was coming, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what our players make. I know our players are getting paid. I don't want to know when I recruit them. I tell them no matter how many times or how sternly I ask, don't you ever tell me how much money you're making. I want you to make money. I think it's crazy, but don't tell me. I just want to coach you. So that's how we recruit. And we hired a general manager that does all that, and it keeps us coaches, if you want to be, like I do, insulated from it. I just want to go find the purest guy I can that's big, tough, smart, that, quite frankly, matches my personality. Like I've turned down players that were probably a little bit more, maybe a little more talented than some of the ones we've recruited. But their personality wasn't a match for mine. Like we're going to be in a submarine together for 5 years every day, and I've got to be able to coach. I got to like coaching you. You got to like being coached by me.
No doubt.
And again, going back to we haven't really lost anybody in the portal. I think we take care of our players. I know they're getting taken care of. Is it what some of these numbers you see on TV or hear about? No, but they're getting a lot. They're getting taken care of here, and it allows me to just coach them, And I think when they're taken care of, their parents know they're getting taken care of. Learning how to be a man, learning how to do things right, and that's not just me. That's our whole staff. Like that's everybody, the strength coaches, everybody, treating them the right way. And then I think another piece of it is they know they're getting developed here. They can see tangible proof of, hey, if I red shirt, I may have to be on the scout team 2 years. I may have to be. I may have to teeter between travel and not traveling, but I know I can see a path forward here. And we've got guys that are going to step up and play this year. That's been their path. They can feel that they're getting better every day. They're getting coached intentionally. They don't leave because they know that's the ultimate goal. And I think our whole staff, starting with the head coach, we preach that here at every position, and that's what's I think we've turned the corner here because of that philosophy. So when you talk about the changes, there are a lot of changes. I'm not the head coach, don't want to be. I'm not the AD. I'm not the general manager. I just coach the offensive line, and life's pretty good when you just do that. You just do your job and not worry about the things you can't control.
Man, Coach, I want to send every kid I know who's an offensive lineman to Colorado State. I mean, I honestly, I love what you're like. Literally, and we don't know each other, but we're getting to know each other. But I love what you're saying, and I think because you're focused on the culture, right? The fact that you're turning down maybe higher quality talent for cultural fit, right? I wanted the kid to fit into how I'm coaching because we're going to spend 5 years in a submarine together, right? I think those are just really, that's a lot of wisdom, man. from my point of view, and the best metric that you have that I've heard from you is you got retention.
Right.
Kids are staying. Like, that's the most important metric, I feel, from the way that we view the sport, right? And the National Football Alliance, like we view it consistently with what you're describing, right? We want to help develop men of character through the great sport of football, right? And the fact that you're retaining guys in the current environment of college football is really well done, and I congratulate you for that.
I appreciate it. And I'll say one more thing again about Coach Norvell. I mean, he worked with the Colts with Howard Mudd and Tom Moore for a couple of years, 4 years, and obviously, you can't do that and not have those guys have a huge influence on your career and your life. And Coach says this all the time. Coaching's really easy. You tell a player what to do, and you make sure they do it. And we really live by that. You tell the player in your own way what's the expectations, and you hold them to it. And I think at the end of the day, players still want to get coached. The ones that really love this game, which is what we're looking for, they want to be coached and they want to be held accountable. And when they get that, the rest of that stuff is just bonus.
Yeah, I think too often that somewhere between guys' years in their junior and senior year in high school, sometimes they lose that focus that they want to be developed. I tell you now, I get reach outs from players that say, "Hey, I'm thinking about I need to change. I'm not here. I'm not there. I'm not getting developed the way I want to." Well, did you pick a school that you went to because you wanted to be developed, or did you pick a school you wanted to go to because you thought you had a good NIL and they had great colors and uniforms? Yeah. And so that, I think, it's a great message for some of our players and listeners to hear.
It's really hard for a kid. When I say turn down players that don't fit, I mean, a lot of times I'm not actually turning them down. Like, the process takes care of itself, because I'll be talking to a player and we offer them, and all of a sudden they blow up, and you can kind of tell who's chasing fluff and who's chasing the pure stuff of getting developed, and you don't have to turn anybody down. It just kind of happens naturally, and a lot of our guys don't have offers. I see something in them and they match us, and and our staff views them as this guy can help us, and we don't really care if they have offers or not. We just go looking for what our profile is, and that's so far been working for us. So, yeah, but it is really hard for a 17-year-old to turn down all that attention. Like, you can tell.
There's no doubt, especially the world that they're raised in and the social media. I mean, it's hard. Joe, I'll tell you this: they're that maybe he doesn't know exactly what the recipe is, but I can give you another metric that they're one of the top 10 ranked offensive lines that PFF ranks through data points. So they're doing something right, a lot right at Colorado State throughout the whole program. So,
right on, Coach. I'm gonna go for a wrap here. Coach Best, just a great conversation. Not only the content of offensive line play, but I love your philosophy. I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity to meet each other. I look forward to following Colorado State this fall and a lot more in the future, and you as well. I look forward to staying in touch. Any other closing comments that you want to share?
No, I appreciate you. I didn't know this many people wanted to hear me talk, so my kids say I talk too much. So, but no, I appreciate you having me on, and I know Mike had a lot to do with helping me get on here, but hopefully somebody can get something out of this. And like I tell people and tell recruits, I'm not going to be anybody. It's hard enough being me. I'm not trying to be somebody else. So I think just being
everybody
yourself,
else is taken anyway, Coach.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, we appreciate your time. You're coming off the worst month in college football in the month of June and ready to take some vacation. So thank you for taking some time with us this morning.
You bet. I'm about to go get rid of this farmer stand. And
there you go.
There you go.
Use your sunscreen.
Have a safe trip. Okay. Have a safe trip. And that's going to be a wrap for us here at the Unscripted Huddle. Thanks for joining. We'll see you again in a couple weeks where we're honoring, improving, and advancing the sport of tackle football.
Well, that's it for this week. Let's keep the conversation going to help NFA honor, advance, and improve the game of football. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for another set of downs on the Unscripted Huddle.